Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're listening to KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM, the Ask Brien radio show every Thursday on KHTS. Now, people always ask us, why is our show called Ask Brien? My name is Peter. My co-host is Tracy. Our engineer is Emily, and today is Patrick.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey.
And nobody understands why it's called Ask Brien. So we'll give you that little hint in a second. But also, everyone says, why are you spelling Brien with an E? It's called, most people know Brien as B-R-Y-A-N or B-R-I-A-N, and you spell it B-R-I-E-N. And, yes, we know that line of, yes, I go to the pub every week, and it's called O'Brien's. Patty O'Brien's, not Patrick, though. And I go there every week, and yes, that's where I have a nice little beer every week. But O'Brien... we're not O'Brien, we're Ask Brien. And everybody wants to know, why? Why is there an E in Brien? And what does the E stand for? So we've actually made a list, and if you've listened to the show, you probably got it. But we have made a list of little different reasons why we have an E in Brien, and it goes to the theme of our show.
Yeah, and for those that aren't familiar, well, sit right in. Let us tell ya. So the E's, as you said, are the...
Tracy, there is no E in laughing.
Tracy broke me. I was trying to keep that with a straight face, and I couldn't.
Do tell us, Patty.
Will I now?
Patrick is like that genie. You have that little thing, and you rub it, and then boom.
You mean I'm Robin Williams, genie from Aladdin? I mean, I can be quite the character.
No, the post-COVID version of Patty is just electrifying.
That's an E.
Oh, that was your favorite. We didn't even get into it yet.
I'm gonna say it again. I just wanted to get it in.
I'll set you up for it later, Trace. I'll get you. But
How about this? The post-COVID version of Patty is engaging.
Yeah, there we go. If I wasn't already, I'm even more engaging. Yes.
Even more engaging. Sorry, I just couldn't help myself. You were so robust in your enthusiasm. Go ahead.
Well, explain to us why we have an E in Brien.
Well, because, as you said, they're all, themes of that make up the whole show. Tracy may have kind of given away hers, but we'll set that up for an even grander scale. One of the most important E's is actually education.
Not only that, but today, folks, today, education's not just part of the Ask Brien E, but we have somebody that's going to talk about education. So we've got a double E. So it's like, how E equals MC squared, but in this case, it's
E
not
equals
really
education squared.
But the E is squared at this point.
Fair
education on the show, and education, because that's going to be our topic for today.
Sounds like we have a very educational show in particular today.
We always try to be educational.
But even more so. But
exactly.
Yes, outside of that, we have, obviously, as everybody can kind of tell at the beginning of this show, we bring a lot of, I'm bringing some enthusiasm and...
excitement!
Peter's bringing the excitement.
Well,
he brings the excitement. I bring the enthusiasm. Well, at least today I am.
I thought you'd bring the engineering.
That also leads us in engineering, which is normally Emily, but, filling in today. So engineer is now Patty for today. Patty, same thing. Let's see. Emily is also an E. She's not here, but she's here in spirit. So Emily's an E. Hooray! Shout out.
Where are you? You don't even have any sounds?
I do.
Well, bring some of the sounds when you do some of these. Okay, right. Bring those when you bring some of these. So, what are the other reasons we have E's?
Well, we got
before the interviewee goes like, "What did I get myself into?"
Well, because there's also experts, because everybody that's brought onto the Ask Brien show is an expert.
And because Patrick is not, math is not his number one skill, and I get him every week. I don't want to hit him up this hard, so we will go over that. To be an expert,
yes,
you need to have
10,000 hours.
And the 10,000 hours are calculated. I'll do that for you. Because even though I'm trying to educate you, it has not worked yet.
Did you hear the boo at that one, Tracy?
If you work 40 hours a week, and no entrepreneur works 40, work 80 to 90. But if you work 40 hours a week, and you work 50 weeks a year, 2 weeks a year off for holidays and vacation, okay, that's 2,000. You work 5 years, That's 10,000 hours. If you have 10,000 hours in something, we deem you to typically be an expert. That could be in anything. But if you have 10,000 hours in engineering, you're an expert engineer.
Huh.
And that's how we calculate it.
You know what? Golf clap for that. Golf clap. You did math today. Tracy's losing it.
Tracy, no more gummy bears.
I know. I should not eat lunch before the show ever again. Apparently, my dessert is just doing me wrong.
Oh man! And then we had experts experience, because everybody is very experienced in their field of choice here on the Ask Brien Show, and guests as well.
And that's pretty similar to being an expert.
That's pretty similar, but we did make two different experts in experience. Let's see. Oh, empathy is another big one.
I don't know why.
He's not very empathetic.
It's very overrated.
It's very easy for Peter to forget the empathy one, just saying.
That's very true. But that's where me and Tracy come in. We're very empathetic people.
Well, that's because you don't have the ego.
Is that a new E? Is that a new E? That's Peter.
A new E.
That's his E.
Funny who it was that brought that one forward.
I know, right?
Well, we do have to get to the show, so we're...
Well, wait. We were forgetting the most.
No, there's two.
We're forgetting two of them. But Tracy, go bring it. What was Grease Lightning?
Okay, my most favorite E of all times is
before the show is over.
Woo!
And one of the newer E's
is
entrepreneurs.
Ah,
that's what we try to cater to, the entrepreneurs.
Woohoo!
All right. Now, if our guest hasn't said, "Oh my God, what did I get myself into? Where am I? And what's going on?" Are you still there? Have you left the show? Have you taken off?
I am still here. I was calculating my hours based on my years as an entrepreneur.
Well, you almost spent 10,000 hours just waiting for us.
Fair enough.
Oh, yeah. So, our guest is Greg Davies. Is that correct? Is that pronunciation
correct? That's correct.
All right, Greg. Woohoo! So, Greg, tell us, my understanding is you have this company called Full Measure. That's what you're currently working on. And before we get into that, people want to know a little bit about your background before you started Full Measure. So we don't need we can get a quick 20, 30-second background of your past before you started this company, and then we'll get into the company, why you started it, and what it's all about.
Sure. Happy to do that by way of an intro. I have about 25 years in higher education software, so I've been bringing products to market since the mid-'90s when I graduated from college. So I went right from being a student to trying to help students. So I think by my calculations, I'm somewhere over 50,000 hours invested in bringing products to market to help students better navigate colleges, be more successful at exiting colleges with a degree that leads to a happier, healthier, more productive life.
How about a job after college?
Oh, well, that's assumed in there most of the time.
By the way, I don't know if everybody knows this, but my sister is the dean of SUNY New York at Binghamton. So I have an educator in my family. She's the dean. Where's your shout out for that? No, nothing, no clap, nothing.
I'll clap for that.
I think we just find it to be shocking. No, I'm just kidding.
And I'll just say one last thing. Her resume is 29 pages long, so I guess you get paid by the word.
Oh my God!
She gets the applause for that.
Yeah, if you have a resume that's 29 pages long, you got to get something. That's amazing.
Well, maybe it's just one letter on every page. Anyway, let's go back. So
One letter.
one letter on every page. You got 29 pages.
I was late to the party on that one.
You didn't even say. I was going to ask you anyway. Without any further ado, you didn't.
You're the one that starts that one. That's not me. That's on you, good sir.
Woo!
Woo!
We'll do that when we come back from our break.
Back up, Patty.
No, because he's blaming me for that. He didn't even bring it up himself.
All right, let's get back to our guest because people want to listen and find out more information about Greg. So that's quite a background you've got there. Now, when you say software, are you like a programmer, or you just come up with educational and software ideas and then have other people prepare them for you? So first,
A very long time ago, I was a programmer, but my skills are what you would call deprecated these days. So now I'm more likely to draw it on a piece of paper and have someone else build it than actually code anything myself. There are much younger, much more qualified people doing that work for me.
and so what was the first educational or first software that you worked on, and then how did you come up with this concept?
So a relatively popular product. I was one of the original 5 people that started a company called Blackboard in 1997. At one point, Blackboard was in use at about 80% of the colleges and universities in the U.S. It was course management software. So as schools were, for the first time, starting to put educational content online, make it available 24/7, start to have fully online classes, Blackboard was the predominant platform in the U.S. and in a number of other countries it was being used to bring that content online.
That sounds great. And then how did you come up to this? I don't want to go through the whole history because we don't have that much time. How did you come up with this new latest concept that you've got in your current endeavor, Full Measure?
Yep, sure. I had a pit stop in between Blackboard and here where I started a company that provided customer service in higher ed. We took about 10 million student phone calls across the student life cycle. So this was more on the administrative computing side, administrative student life cycle, as opposed to the academic, which Blackboard was focused on. And so in the course of taking 10 million student phone calls, you hear a lot of friction sometimes in the administrative processes. And so this company was founded to take a lot of the data systems and processes that exist in higher ed today and move them to the smartphone to make it simpler and easier to get through, the administrative processes that are required in order to stay in good standing with your institution and move forward and eventually, hopefully, graduate.
So what are the top 3 things that you learned during that time frame with 10 million students that were the 3 biggest issues that you learned about, or you think were the
number one, most students in this generation don't know what a bursar is, and we should probably rename that office because they don't understand where they need to go to pay bills. That was one we heard quite frequently. I think it varies from institution to institution and state to state and county to county. Regulations are different, rules are different, processes are different. But there are a lot of sort of friction points in the administrative student life cycle that make it difficult for students, particularly first-generation students and low-income students, to stay on track. And, it doesn't take much to knock, a low-income student off track, and then they become the wrong type of statistic. And I think, there's good data out there from Bill and Melinda Gates and other places that, 9 out of 10 students drop out for non-academic reasons. So a car breaks down, they don't file their FAFSA on time, things like that. So we work very, very hard to make sure that they're getting information to their mobile device as they need it. To be able to make the right decision, file the right form at the right time, and not fall behind on some of that administrative stuff so that they can continue to register for courses and attend courses and graduate.
Well, for me, the 2 biggest issues I had, and you mentioned one of them, I think, is financial aid. To go through the financial aid packet, get all that information, and get it in on time, there's a lot of work involvement for that. And then the other part was, signing up for my courses. In the old days, with the Pony Express, we actually had to go down to like a table and sign up for that stuff. And nowadays, I imagine you just click on a box and click your class, and when the class gets filled, it gets filled. But I mean, getting into classes was tough, I thought, on the administrative side, and getting my financial aid. That was my 2, but everyone else, as we say, everyone has their own issues on an administrative part of it. So I clearly hear you and understand that. So how have you streamlined those type of things?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is allowing students to do things on their phone that previously were required to be done in person, right? And so there still are, and I've been all over the country from, rural areas of Texas, Louisiana to Escanaba, Michigan, and the Upper Peninsula, and worked with schools of all types, right? So the Stanfords, but also the Rankin technical colleges in Arkansas. And it just depends on where you are, but in a lot of cases, you're still, if you're a community college, the average student attending is 28 years old. A lot of them have families. They work hourly jobs in a lot of cases. And now you have an administrative office that's only open 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. You have to show up to show your ID once a year to get in-state tuition. You live 40 miles from campus. You're talking about taking a half day off work to go wait in a line to show your ID. And if you don't do that, you don't get in-state tuition, then your Pell Grant doesn't cover your your classes, and then you stop out and you become the wrong kind of statistic. And so the ability to touch the student and say, we need to copy your driver's license and pop their camera on their phone, take that picture, and have that task crossed off changes the outlook for a lot of students that aren't in the situation where they have, time to waste waiting in line at an institution.
How do people find you? I mean, this is the first time I had ever heard of any company out there that did anything of that nature. How would people even find you?
Well, we work with colleges directly, right? So if you're a student at San Bernardino Valley College, our software is interacting with you on a pretty regular basis, or Napa Valley College, or Stanford, or Pitzer, as for examples in California. So we're working with the students from those institutions because the institutions have contracted with us to work with us, use our software.
Tracy likes the Napa Valley one for the wine tasting.
I've done an on-site there. I personally signed up for that on-site implementation, so I worked there.
Yeah, and then you visited about 12 different places just to see, where a good off-site location would be. X winery and Z winery and A winery. But that's really amazing. So how many colleges do you have? How many colleges are there, and how many colleges are using your software program?
You can probably find a lot of different numbers for how many colleges there are, but there are about 4,500 degree-granting institutions in the U.S. that receive Title IV funds. So that's a good baseline number. There's about 4,500. We currently work with about 10% of the colleges in the country, including SUNY Binghamton, by the way.
Well, I'll have to. Where's my call out for my sister? No, Patrick's like, I'm sorry, I'm on my iPad checking out the scores of the football game. Got it. All right, no problem.
There's no football on right now.
Actually, preseason's tonight.
But again, not right now.
Depends on your time zone and when
Fair
you're
enough.
listening to our podcast.
Not a time traveler, not yet at least.
Some people are listening to the podcast. Remember, this is a podcast. They can be listening on a Sunday at 1 o'clock in 3 weeks.
On a football Sunday from like 5 weeks from now, yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're going to be doing.
Nothing quite says football.
I'm glad everybody agrees. All right, so
Like Ask Brian.
I don't know. I'd take Ask Brian over a football game any day. So, let's see. We've got how much more time before break?
We got like another minute or two.
We do have another minute or two.
Yeah.
All right.
No more than a minute or two, though.
All right. So you're gonna have to
Keep
get
it snappy.
We need a quick answer. So, who's your biggest competitor?
We have multiple products, and they compete with different companies. So there's some big education software companies like EAB, the Education Advisory Board here in D.C., where we are, would be one that we run into quite frequently.
So, and give us. You said it sounds to me there's like different product categories you're in within the educational field. So can you give us 3 main ones?
Sure. So a lot of our work is in the admissions office, and one of the most popular things to do with our product is to build virtual tours that are personalized and use user-generated content. So students actually filming videos of themselves rather than like the glossy drone flyovers and the 360 panorama views. So if I'm a student and I want to take a walking tour of Stanford, I can select my interest and it generates a tour. And when I scan a building with my phone, it uses augmented reality to pop videos from real students talking about what it's like to be an engineering major at Stanford and things like that.
Wow.
So that's probably the best example of a standalone product that we have that's built on the mobile device.
We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with the other two. You're listening to KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM, the Ask Brian Show. Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. Mr. Davies is here, and he's giving us everything about Full Measure. So before we took a break, there was 2 parts left of the question of the 3 most important products or 3 biggest products you had. One was kind of got the concept of like a virtual tour. That's how I thought about it, but maybe a different methodology that you're using. What are the 2 others?
Sure. So the second product that I would highlight for you focuses on the moment of acceptance. And so a lot of institutions now are using our platform to notify accepted students via their mobile device. So, and from there, they can interact with a whole lot of content that used to come in an acceptance packet in the physical mail, and do things like share institution-branded TikTok filters, Insta filters, Snap lenses, so they can celebrate with their network that they've been accepted. And, if Ohio State is a client, so if you get into Ohio State, you may get a chance to dance around with Bucky, the mascot, on Instagram to celebrate that moment. But then inside there as well, you can do some things very, very quickly. So you can one-tap register for orientation. You can go make a deposit for your housing. You can forward it to your parents, and they'll get a different letter that's more tailored towards what they need to know and how they can stay in touch with the institution through the process. And so it takes that, paper mailing process and turns it into a very dynamic opportunity to interact via your mobile device with the institution.
Wow. All about efficiency is what I'm gathering. And what was the third?
We do a lot of work with Res Life on campus. So if you're a student at Gonzaga, you're going to hear through our platform about Move-In Day particulars, sort of coordinating Move-In Day to make it a more streamlined process, which anyone who's done any moving in of students, and I have with 3 kids now, understands that's a somewhat chaotic day. But then also staying in touch with, one of the most important things when it comes to predicting success or failure for a student is how that transition happens. Do they feel fit with the institution? Do they connect with a student club or organization, or, have a good experience with their roommate or their hallmates, et cetera? And so institutions are using our platform to better connect first-year students with campus resources via their mobile device.
That sounds excellent. Traci, you had a couple questions. We will be taking a break in a few minutes, but you had a couple questions.
Yeah, I do. So that's, I'm just sitting here thinking back on, when I got my college. So I applied to 2 colleges because I thought I was going to get into one, and it was the University of Virginia. And so when that letter came, it was really thin, like really, really, really thin. So I pretty much knew when I got that letter from the University of Virginia that I was going to my second choice. So it's so fascinating to think how from then to now, how much the college experience in general has changed and how technology has enhanced that. How are some of the other marketing tools and tech tools, what are some of those different tech tools, marketing tools that universities are using to reach more people?
Yeah, so I think there is a transition happening in higher education where, they moved some years ago from paper-based mailings to email. And now they're recognizing that they're just not getting a lot of people receiving their emails and opening them and reading them and then taking the actions they want them to take. And so the move now is to the mobile device. And so there are a number of platforms out there that allow institutions to better connect with students on their mobile device. And every one of those campaigns is seeing, 5-10x more engagement than anything that happens via email with Gen Z students that you're trying to recruit.
Well, I would say, too, that Gen Z students have literally grown up with a phone in their hand since they were in middle school, at least, right? So having their own phone in middle school, before that using their parents and things like that. So it's really make for a much more natural transition for them. It's what they're already used to. If you were sending them mail, that would almost be a disruptor to them, I would think.
Certainly the case. And a lot of institutions, too, that one of the big focuses in higher education as an industry is on, obviously diversity, equity, and inclusion and making sure that they're recruiting and focused on social mobility. And the reality is that, not quite a third, but about a third of low-income Americans are smartphone dependent. The only access to the internet they have is on their phone. So if you're providing them with digital content and information that's not optimized for their smartphone, they're not going to see it. And so for these schools, they have to update everything to be smartphone first in order to give an opportunity for the populations they're trying to recruit to be able to have a shot at actually getting through the process of onboarding to an institution.
And then do you feel like as a result, too, that this is setting them up for a much more successful journey through their freshman year because they have these opportunities to have these connection points, data points, and inclusion points in terms of what clubs to join and what pathways to take instead of just landing there on the first day and being completely overwhelmed?
I think there's a huge opportunity here for that. And that is, you want to find your fit, right? You bring to that campus a set of, interests, motivators, values, goals, and you want to find that mirrored in the campus community. And if you're a student on, freshman at University of Michigan, they have 800 clubs and organizations, and it's very difficult to figure out which ones, match for me. And so if I take a tour on our platform and I select my interests, I can then message that student their first week on campus and say, based on your interest, here are 10 club recommendations, and this is when they're meeting, and we'd love to, RSVP on your behalf. And so that, getting that student out to that first club, that first day, is such a big indicator of whether or not they're going to feel comfortable on campus and come back after Thanksgiving.
I think that's so amazing, and really just a way to also keep them more accountable to being able to plug in quickly. And then academically, does this give them other opportunities to connect with future professors and things like that?
Certainly. That's one of the, again, it's about finding fit for, so critical in that first semester. And anything we can do to make those connections with, parts of campus life that are important to that individual strengthens their commitment and their connection to the institution.
And with the roommate situation, do they get to FaceTime their roommates, pick their roommates this way, or is that something that also comes into consideration?
We don't do that. There are some roommate matching products out there in the market. And then, I can tell you, anecdotally, my kids, they just connected on Instagram with whoever their roommate was and started talking about who's bringing what. And, where was the first activity they wanted to go to with their new roommate.
Oh, that's so fun. Makes you want to go back to college again. Just kidding.
Well,
so are we ready for our sponsors?
Yes, we are. The original person was on the telephone, so we've got another person calling in. Hold on. Is she there? We're on. Okay, so we have, each week our show is sponsored by Each week our show is sponsored by both Albany Farms Twisted Noodles. Dun 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 dun, nothing, okay. And Legal Steps with a Z. And each week we have somebody that explains who is Twisted Noodles and what is Legal Steps. And is she there?
Yes, this is Stephanie. How are you guys?
All right, how are you? So
Good.
first of all, people are shocked that you're sponsoring us, but thank you very much. Anyway.
You're welcome.
That's a good way to keep her from not sponsoring us, but thank you.
And our co-host is called The Laugher. That's her name, The Laugher.
Okay. Hello, the laugher.
And she eats a lot of gummy bears
I'm
and
just here for the
travels.
entertainment.
She eats a lot of gummy bears and travels to Napa Valley all the time. Anyway.
Oh, wow.
So.
He's just lying, but that's okay.
My nose is
Sounds like you guys are having a blast over there.
I guess we should, yeah. We'll have to stop that right away. Anyway, people want to know, so what is Twisted Noodles?
So Twisted Noodles is a brand of Albany Farms. It is instant ramen noodles, just like Maruchan, Cup of Noodles, Nanshin, and the many other brands that are out there. So very similar, but better.
And is that the reason why people should choose those Twisted Noodles, because they're better? And how are they better?
Yes. So we rely on domestic sources for our ingredients and our raw materials. And so our noodles are made in the U.S., unlike most of the competitors. So that is something unique about our brand, and we're very proud of it. Our plant is in Bellevue, South Dakota. And if you guys haven't heard about the company or checked out our website, go to www.albanyfarms.com and check us out.
And then we've just got a little bit of time left, not much. What is Legal Steps? I mean, is that like, walking up to the courthouse? There's a whole bunch of steps and it's just as small or what?
No steps at all. It's very simple. So you'll just go to LegalZoom.com and you'll be able to set up your business in no time.
Legal Steps, you said, right? Not Legal Zoom.
Yes, Legal Steps.
And you'll be able to set up your business really quickly. Well, thanks a lot, Stephanie.
Yeah.
We like to hear from you every time, so it's nice to have you on. We're going to get right back to the show,
Thanks,
the Brien Show. Thanks a lot.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Traci?
Yes. So tell us a little bit about your personal journey story towards education. What was it that inspired you to take this path for your own career?
Interestingly enough, I took many years to finish my degree and went to multiple institutions. I started at a community college. I took some time off. I transferred 3 times. I ended up graduating with, I think, 60 extra credits for a bachelor's degree because so many didn't transfer. So I have like a bachelor and a half degree. And so when I got out, I think I did. I thought about, kind of why my journey was so twisted, speaking of that word that just came up, and why, could I make it simpler and more straightforward for the next generation to come through? And started with online courses and now have moved towards the administrative life cycle and how can we make that as frictionless as possible and as easy for students as possible.
And what was one of the things that was a big challenge for you in building and launching and becoming an entrepreneur?
I think fortunately for me, I was so young when Blackboard started. I had no idea how hard it was or what challenges we would face. And so we just sort of came in, bright-eyed and we got beaten down a few times here and there. We made, all the classic mistakes I'm sure that young entrepreneurs make. But ultimately, we were super passionate about what we were doing, and we were bringing good products to market. And so we were able to fight through the first-time entrepreneur mistakes and still build a very good company that had a big impact on people.
And then did you exit that company? Did you have VC investors?
Blackboard went public.
Did you sell it or?
Yeah, Blackboard, we raised about $110 million, went public in 2004, and then was sold in a private equity transaction in 2011.
So that's a pretty aggressive entrepreneurial journey for your first time out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we hit the market at the right time, 97. Netscape had just gone public. Money was flowing, and then the 2000 dot-com burst. But thankfully, we actually had software revenue from enterprise customers, so we weren't reliant on, eyeballs. And so we were able to weather that storm pretty effectively and get to a good exit.
So I think a lot of people who would have that level of success on a venture in the time frame that you're talking about, they might just stop there, maybe, be an advisor, be a consultant. But you really chose to kind of dig back into doing another startup.
I did it twice. Yeah, this is my third one, and I don't think I'm interested in doing it any other way. I love the conceptual phases of what big thing can we do, what big impact can we have, being mission driven and small. And I think that's where you find things that that are really impactful. Start with small groups, and so I don't think you'll ever see me taking over an existing organization. And I'd much rather start with a whiteboard and a couple good people.
Where do you see the innovation in this space going?
I mean, I think obviously, we have somewhat tunnel vision because of what we do, but moving to the mobile devices is critically important for colleges, particularly, like I said, for the audiences that they're trying to target in terms of social mobility. And I think you've got a lot of legacy systems on college campuses that have a lot of data in them that's very predictive of future states. And so the degree to which you can successfully access that data and make predictions about whether a student is moving off track, the earlier you can remediate, the more likely you are to be able to solve their problem. And so I think that's the big challenge with higher education is how do we get that data and use it to make sure that someone who needs access to the food pantry gets it, someone who needs access to mental health counseling gets it, someone who needs an emergency grant because their car broke down or they lost their job and they can't pay their rent that month gets it so that they can stay on track towards attaining their degree.
Well, thanks. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Listen to KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM with Greg Davies. Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM, the Ask Brien radio show. And we have a great guest today, Greg Davies. Traci, you had a couple more questions to ask, Greg?
Yes, so we have a question from our listeners about how the actual process works. So can you walk us through, I'm a student and I get my acceptance letter. Yay, what happened?
You finally got accepted. All right, go ahead.
I know,
Right,
finally got accepted.
Yeah, so you get the text message. So you get an immediate text from the institution that says, we've got big news, and then you click the link and it takes you into a progressive web app in your browser, and from there you can interact with all the content. So you can take next steps, you can make a deposit, you can register for orientation, as I mentioned before, you can share on social, And so you have a lot of options there. So you're getting information that's critical for you to understand about deadlines and what needs to happen. And you're getting opportunities to, celebrate, share the news with your supporters. So parents, whoever it is, who you want to tell that you got in, and so you can forward the acceptance letter to them. And so it's and from there they can start to, take those next steps. So get into orientation, and then, from there, make a deposit for their dorm, etc.
And how do the high school students know about this app and that they can activate it?
They don't need to know, because the institutions license our software, and then they upload the list of accepted students. So once they tap in their CRM at the school that they've accepted a student, it automatically triggers that message through our platform. And so the students don't have to go and do anything. They'll get the text, and then from the institution when they get accepted.
I was just wondering if you ever have anyone who thinks that might be spam as a text, but they might miss out on the whole joy of the acceptance experience.
So schools using our platform do a pretty good job of filtering out, numbers that they're not allowed to text. They don't have explicit permission to text. And so anyone they don't have permission to text, they're still going to get either an email or a mail home pack or both.
Yeah, it's so exciting. So how can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about the product, or maybe just get a little bit of mentoring advice from somebody who's done this so successfully? What's the best way for our listeners to reach out and get in touch with you?
So for any institutions, it would be to go to fullmeasure.io, or just anyone interested in who we are. So fullmeasure.io, and actually 2 institutions from LA have already gone there during this interview and registered for more information. So thank you for that. And then if you're a prospective student, you can go to tours.fullmeasure.io, and you can see all of the institutions that use us for virtual tours, and you can go, look at what real students have to say about what their dorm room looks like, and how they're enjoying their time there, what programs they're in that they think are you might enjoy. So highly recommend any prospective students, any high school students, anyone thinking about going back to college, go to tours.fullmeasure.io and check out all the tours we have available.
Well, this episode has been packed full of some really good information. And if you are listening and you want to listen to it again, then make sure you check out our podcast where you can get this on demand, especially all the resources that were mentioned will be in the show notes for the episode. So head on over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Follow the Ask Brien, Brien, Ask Brien podcast on your favorite podcast platforms. And we also really super appreciate the 5-star reviews and all the good feedback that we get. And if you have feedback that's not good, we don't want that, so don't send it to us. No, just kidding.
Thank you.
Leave us a review or let us know if you want to tell us something else.
Thank you very much for listening to KHTS 1220 98.1 FM. Ask Brien with our guest today, Greg Davies. Thanks. See you next week.